Well, good morning, all. This is Patricia, and I am traveling for history. Today, behold, I have a guest, my first of hopefully many. This is Ron Wanamaker of Preservation Burlington. He is a longtime board member there. And should he look familiar, that's because he hosts the monthly Preservation Burlington TV show on this channel at this very desk. Preservation Burlington is a 501c3 nonprofit organization whose mission is to preserve and protect historic architecture. Keep that in mind because we're going to be talking about that. And the livability of our neighborhoods through education and advocacy. In fact, the building we're going to be talking about, which is the building formerly known as the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception in Burlington, Vermont. Preservation Burlington has been spearheading the trying to save it from demolition. So Ron, welcome to my show. It's really great to have you here. Appreciate you coming on.
Hi, Patricia. It's great to be here. I will note that you dumped that other TV show on me because you had been the host for a long time, and you still memorized the intro, which I can't after all these years. So.
But you have that thing that they put on the camera.
I cheat, and I have a cue card. Yeah.
So that's good. You've got a lot going on.
It works. It works.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. And just to clarify, like I've been doing for the media, so Preservation Burlington's role in saving the cathedral is education and funding advocacy. So they've been spearheading the GoFundMe page and the funding to support a group of 10 neighbors who brought suit against the diocese to try and save the building. So technically Preservation Burlington's not suing anyone. They're just raising money and funding. I'm part of the group of 10. A couple of the board members are, but it's not technically Preservation Burlington. So
thanks for the correction.
Well, it wasn't because they are spearheading the effort, but mostly through education, which we've been linking our website to a group website that was created to save 20 Pine Street. Yeah, just to raise awareness. Oh, here it is. It's up on the link here up on the screen, a modernist landmark in Burlington, Vermont. So you can see there's a whole bunch of links. These are all letters of support from architects who are related to the architects originally involved. Just all over the place. DeComo, which is always trying to save important architecture. Yeah, and it links to there's a beautiful picture of the interior of the stained glass. And Dan Urban Kiley, Edward Larrabee Barnes were the primary architects, both modernists. Barnes designed the building. Dan Kiley, a Vermonter from Charlotte, who's world-renowned, designed the landscape. Yeah, and then the glass artists were famous and are famous. Some of them are still alive. It's just an amazing building and an amazing urban landscape in Burlington. That's why I feel so passionate about it.
Well, it's hard also, because last time in March I was talking about the greenscape, the green space rather. How it's one of only two downtown,
Yep.
City Hall Park.
Which is mostly paved over now.
As I understand it, I haven't been there in quite a long time.
Yep. I mean, I kind of feel that way, especially. There's a great aerial photograph somewhere that I've shared on Facebook and other things where you see the city there and it's just all concrete and glass with this chunk of green space in the middle, And like you said, I mean, this is an era of sustainability and we're trying to put oxygen into the atmosphere. And at the same time, we're getting pressure from developers and from the diocese themselves to knock this down and pave it, create another parking lot, like that famous song, and and lose all that green space and the trees.
Well, what I found fascinating was when I was doing some research on this, that the diocese, the Catholic diocese in Burlington, has stated that the best way to deconsecrate this church is to demolish it, when in fact that is not the case at all. All the bishop needs to do is decree, nope, not a church anymore. That's all he has to say, and that's in Roman Catholic liturgy.
Yeah. A lot of our Catholic board members agree with what you just said, and frankly, the church was desanctified 4 years ago, and all the objects and the altar and everything have been removed. So there's nothing of religious significance within the building anymore. And You know, Winooski's going through a similar plight with the St. Stephen's, the marble church.
But they stopped, that's on the National Register.
That's on the National Register. It's older, obviously.
Yeah.
So it's easier to consider historic, but the pressure to demolish it is still there. They're still in court over it. I think Preservation Trust of Vermont is helping guide that effort.
Oh my gosh.
I know, and so the concern in my speaking with people higher up in preservation organizations than myself is that if we do allow the diocese to set this precedent that the only way to deconsecrate a religious building is to demolish it, that opens the floodgates to demolish all the historic buildings that are related to a church some way or another, and not consider any other adaptive reuse. We just, it takes local control out of everybody's hands, and it puts all these historic buildings at risk.
Well, we were talking before the show started about the zoning law. That I found out about that last week when I did some quick research. And when I saw that, I was just about ready to tear my hair out, that religious buildings are exempt from zoning laws. Yes, that's it. So, yeah. So we were talking about that. So can you give a brief reason?
Sure. I mean,
that is?
I think the state statute is, I should have this memorized as well, but I think it's VSA 244413.
You think? Well, geez.
Is the state statute that exempts religious organizations from local ordinance. And colleges, I believe colleges are involved in that same, the same reason, in that same law for the same reason. And I think originally, probably a long time ago, when they created these laws to exempt religious organizations and churches from being influenced or being discriminated against by local communities, right? They might not want a mosque in their neighborhood, so they'll just zone against it, But if enough Muslim people are in a community and they want to have a mosque and build a mosque on a piece of land, the thought is they should be protected from the ordinance. And I can still see validity to that, but the flip side, and one of our original arguments was that the Establishment Clause in the Constitution says that no law shall establish preferential treatment over one group versus another. And then that statute violates that constitutional amendment. So you're creating preferential treatment for a religious organization. And again, I can kind of understand that. If 20 Pine Street was still being used as a church or for any church purposes, then I would have less of a valid argument. It's their building, they're using it, it's going to maintain religious purpose after the demolition, but it's not, and it's currently sold. There's a purchase and sales agreement. So that muddies the water, because now the church, even though they're only partial owner at this point, are getting preferential treatment and a demolition permit for an owner who would have to go through the normal steps of the ordinance, but he doesn't because he's buying it from a church. That muddies the waters.
Now, in Burlington, as I recall, there is finally, probably the last 10 years, where if a building owner doesn't care for the building, it can't be demolished because it wasn't cared for.
Right.
Right.
Demolition by neglect.
Yeah, demolition by neglect. Now, it's been my experience filming all around the state, different churches that are on the National Register, that they are in disrepair. A paint job is the least of their problems, especially the Catholic churches all over the place, because none of them can afford to maintain their buildings. So I'm willing to bet there's some structural issues with the cathedral. That may not be true, but that's been what I have seen. So since the church has been neglecting their building, but they're not allowed to demolish it for that reason, is that an argument that can be used in court? Has it been used in court? It
hasn't yet. Part of the problem, and I'll say you would think that's true based on anecdotal evidence all over the state, but 20 Pine Street is not that old. It's not
50, yeah.
It's not quite 50 years yet.
Yeah, 40.
Yep.
44.
Yeah, the other church that was on that site burned in 1972, so 77 till now. That was built in 1977. So as we know, It was like the brutalist architecture down the road, the church down the street, that's all concrete. They used really hardy materials at the time, especially in the modernist movement, you know, less so for residential stuff maybe, but that building is all high quality brick, glazed ceramic tile, concrete, metal roof, copper roof. It's really well built. So the neglect now is they threw a fence up, people jumped the fence, and it's getting tagged and getting painted all over the.
But it still falls to the diocese. If they are still the owner of the building, and the 7 Days article I had read had said they were the owner. Mm-hmm. So even as a partial owner, aren't they still responsible to maintain the property?
Absolutely. That's a really touchy subject. We can have a whole nother show about demolition by neglect and how the city does it themselves. You know,
Memorial Auditorium
is this glaring example. You know, it's expensive to maintain buildings, especially historic buildings. You know, and we have to. I feel like as a community, we have to say that we have to agree that we're either going to do that or we're not. But if we care about, you know, City Hall, if we care about Memorial Auditorium, which may be too late, then we need to make sure that we have the funds to care for these buildings, not for us, but for the next generation, you know. So back to the diocese, yeah, as they're responsible, you know, but they'll just claim, well, we put a fence up. If people jump the fence and paint the windows, you know, what can we do about that?
You know, I don't think that really flies, because people are going to jump the fence. Mm-hmm. Is that not? I mean, if they really want people to jump the fence needs to be taller. What is it, 6 feet tall?
A little razor wire. Now we start getting into
some minefield on the other side.
Right.
I don't know. It's just
we're hoping that. I mean, it's really the final stage of our argument. We've been through a federal court case. We've been through the environmental court of the Vermont Supreme Court, and then we've appealed to the Supreme Court of Vermont.
You have?
Yeah. So, I mean, we're just trying to, we didn't get the discovery that we had asked for, which would have proven our point. You know, basically our lawyers have spelled everything out. You know, the building, as it stands, as an analogy, is a pile of sticks. The diocese owns this pile of sticks, and they've sold it and signed an agreement with another person, an entity. So that person owns half the pile of sticks. So we can't, and the Development Review Board should not look at that pile of sticks as any kind of sacred thing anymore. You know, it's just, it feels to me, because we've been making the argument for quite some time, that it's just common sense. You know, the building isn't a church. It's owned by a church partially. It's owned by someone else partially. They can't get preferential treatment. They can't just blanket get a demolition permit with no plans for replacement. You
know. But do we know who the other owner is?
Well, that was part of our request and discovery, and we were the church claims that it's something that corporations use, you know, that it's a business secret.
You're saying the corporate shield?
It's a business secret, and
business secret.
And the judge agreed that it wasn't pertinent to our argument, but it's really our total argument, you know, who the purchaser is, you know.
Well, it's what is it? It's what is it? 5 acres? No, 8.5. Whatever it is, it's a lot of acres downtown anyway, of prime real estate.
Yeah.
8.5 million. That was the listing price.
Yeah.
So, so I can imagine something big, concrete, expensive, ugly, that will not last for 50 years.
Right.
Is going to be built there.
Yep. Back to the planned obsolescence, right? You know, that we see that everywhere. I mean, they knocked the high school down. They're knocking down the VFW. I admittedly, they can create more housing on that footprint.
Where's the VFW?
Oh, is that Winooski or?
Oh, yes.
I think it's on Winooski there. So there's a lot of things being built, and you're right. A lot of it is quick, and you know, if I'd say quick and shoddy construction, but it's definitely planned obsolescence. We're 60 years old. We're knocking buildings down. How good is that for the environment and embodied energy? Take all that brick and all that steel and just take it to the dump and throw it out or melt it down, and then build another one with lots more petroleum products. You know, we talk about in the state about sustainability and about, you know, making buildings net zero, but your buildings, you're making net zero buildings that you probably are going to replace in 40 to 60 years. That's not sustainable at all, you know.
Yeah.
I think we've just listed like 3 different shows we could go on and on about.
See, this is the thing. I say in a variety of my videos that I am a preservationist, and certainly at heart. And seeing what I think is really just bad decision after really, wow, what were you thinking decisions, makes me pretty angry.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Same. I feel like I've been told I'm a preservationist, you know, and
it's not a dirty word. It's not a dirty word, folks. It's just not.
I know. You know, and they knocked down the Moran plant, you know, and now we have a skeleton there that kids.
Why? Why do they bother with that?
The kids, and they're trying to pitch it as a win.
It's not a win. They could have done so much for that building. Gosh, don't get me started.
No, I know.
Part 2.
Like you said, exactly. Part 2 is watching these poor decisions over and over again. You know, I have high hopes. We have a new administration. You know, the former administration came from a development background. They came from a start over, start clean, new buildings background, and that they very visibly promoted that. You know,
yes.
I think we have a new progressive mayor. If they are serious about sustainability, then preservation is a huge part of sustainability, right? There's no more sustainable building than the one that's already there. You know, and what can we do to make these buildings last for another 150 years? And you know, that's my argument.
Well, clearly it's my argument too, especially seeing all these buildings all around Vermont that are just, wow.
Yeah.
They're on the National Register, and they're just, wow, there's just really paint jobs are the least of the problems.
I know. It's fun. You've got a great gig. It's fun. It must be fun to drive around and find these places and videotape them and talk about them and do some research. That's got to be a blast, you know.
It is.
Good.
And the stuff I see along the way that's unexpected.
Yeah. Sort of serendipitous discoveries, right? But paint, you've mentioned paint a couple of times, you know, and Colonial Williamsburg has done a bunch of studies, and you need to paint every 5 to 7 years to maintain the paint finish. And if you keep them painted, water doesn't get in, they don't rot. You know, when you see the paint failing and then the glazing failing on the windows, and then the wood starts to get compromised, that's the beginning. And then get one little hole in the roof. You know, give it 15 years and the roof will collapse or something. You know, it's a shame. Mothball it. That's another topic we can talk about. Mothballing historic buildings. If we're not going to use them, like Memorial, we got $6 million, I think, or not 8. I think it was $6 million to mothball Memorial Auditorium. We've used a fraction of that. And they sort of patched and plugged the roof a little bit and threw some plywood over some of the windows that you can reach. The windows have gotten smashed. Because we live in Burlington, you know, had not done enough to protect that building, even if we're not going to use it, you know. And again, that's a whole other question for the new administration and an argument for preservation, you know. Demolition by neglect. We didn't secure the building from the elements, and it's only gotten worse, you know. Which
is a no-duh thing. If you don't protect it, it's, yeah. Wow.
Wow. What can we talk about that's fun? What's the most recent, like, fun building you've come across?
Well, nothing. I haven't been filming much here. When I was on vacation in Arizona, and I saw Ruby, Arizona, which is a ghost town.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's and behind fencing, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in the middle of nowhere. I mean, ghost towns typically are in the middle of nowhere at this point, but yeah. It was amazing, but the owners are preserving only a handful of these buildings, because some are just some rubble.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right. Literally ghosts of what was there.
Yes. Yes. The hospital, because it had a hospital. Yeah. Was it 12 beds? It was a very small hospital, and the doctor's office was attached. So, but it's rubble.
Oh wow.
There's no roof. I was able to walk through the rooms. It's like 2 or 3 left.
You put that up on your page?
No, that's not up on my channel yet.
Oh, okay.
It's one of 2 left from there, but
okay.
it's a really interesting place, and I would recommend anybody go visit. It costs money, but it's worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I love the West. I love Arizona, New Mexico, and the whole area there. You stumble on these things, like that whole economic wave as people pushed west and built towns and then moved on, and it's so interesting to me.
Oh, it's fascinating.
Yeah, that's
I've got a whole roster of places I'll be filming this year. Around Vermont.
local in Vermont.
In Vermont, and actually there's a ghost town in New Hampshire I want to go film.
Oh, really?
I know. Crazy. I'm not going to tell you which one it is or where it is, but
Right. Yeah. You just allude to it.
Yes. It's on my bucket list.
It's a teaser.
A teaser. Yes, I've got that. That's something I'm going to be doing. I haven't done it yet.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fun. I know that they're doing more positive note. I know that the city is doing Lakeview Cemetery over again. There was an RFP out, so they're restoring the caretaker's building there, which is sort of Gothic Victorian.
Is that the white one?
Yeah, yep. So then that's moving right along. So they're gonna do some adaptive reuse inside, so create offices and a conference space like exists, and then a caretaker's apartment above.
Wow.
That they'll be able to generate income and have somebody on site watching over the cemetery, and that includes the chapel and painting all the trim and taking care of the doors and the window trim all around the chapel. I know it's a stone building; they last a pretty good long time, but the wooden elements need to be painted every 5 to 7 years, and they're probably well beyond that at this point.
No doubt, but they did do work. Well, God, that was so long ago, 15 years maybe now. They redid the inside.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And now they're doing some electrical work inside too.
Okay.
So that's part of a different grant project. So, yeah, there's a lot of passionate people out there that are preservationists. Dana Carlisle, Preservation Burlington's got a couple of walking tours, and there's the state. All over the state, they've issued a whole bunch of these historic markers, the bronze ones, and Burlington's getting 2 of them up on Battery Street. So we're going to have an opportunity to have an unveiling and a talk and then maybe a neighborhood walk about the glass company that was up there. That was a TV show we did a couple of months back where Diana Carlisle came on and talked about her research. She came back to Burlington after moving away. She grew up here and came back to be closer to her mom, and then went to graduate school, and back in the day did her thesis on this glass company. And now
Frederick Smith was the president of that.
Yep. So we'll be getting a plaque about that soon.
Very cool. That's fantastic. And then people can learn more.
You're right. And see like the first, they talk about Lakeside Terrace coming up again as worker housing, existing worker housing. And then, but the first worker housing was in that neighborhood up there, for the glass company. It lasted, I forget what she said, 80 years, I think, or somewhere between 40 and 80 years. I can't remember exactly. Because glass was such a difficult thing to manufacture, apparently. And then we had a lot of competition sending glass here from Europe, and it just kept moving. You'd burn up all the trees to make the glass, and then you have to move the glass factory. So interesting stuff.
It is, and that's what's great about history. Hopefully we can learn from history. That's kind of the point, that we're supposed to learn from history.
Right. Back to the cathedral. Let's not, you go all over Vermont, but you go into bars everywhere and they have old-timey pictures of what the town used to look like. We love that.
Yes.
But when we physically have it right in front of us, we don't take the effort to save it. I don't want to go into whatever gets built there and have a pretty picture of what the cathedral was, the historic building that it is, And again, it's not 50 years old, but the architect is internationally renowned. The landscape architect is internationally renowned. I mean, you can see right there the glazed brick and tile, and
that's the green parts.
Yeah, the green part and those arched windows. It's people. I was in West Palm Beach, and there's a Dan Kiley landscape in the center of downtown West Palm Beach that faces the water, and we have one, and we're about to bulldoze it. I can't believe it. Hopefully we'll learn from the past, and we'll have a reprieve on this one.
Yeah. Yes, it's crazy, but you should come back, though. We should talk about something else, because there's always something to talk about.
Exactly, anytime. I mean, we just made a short list of about 4 or 5 things.
Oh yeah, this whole mothballing thing, I had never heard of mothballing. So.
Yeah, it's not the ideal solution, but it's better than letting it demo by neglect.
Especially the city, which should be leading the way and
Right.
what you're supposed to do with the
Sure.
building.
You have laws on the books, and you're telling people they have to obey those laws, but you yourself are not obeying those laws.
Exactly.
You know, it's a little hypocritical.
Yes, yes.
But we'll see. It's a new dawn.
So, quickly, since we're near the end, is Preservation Burlington always looking for volunteers?
Oh, constantly. Yes, thanks for bringing that up.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, we are always looking for volunteers or interested board members. We had 2 new folks come on recently because of both education and advocacy. The homes tour is gearing up right now. We've got all our homes. I can't talk about it yet. It'll be on our show next month.
A date for the homes tour?
Yeah, I think it's June 8th, I believe. We just had the banner up last week. I think it's June 8th. It's on a Saturday as usual. Saturday? Sunday? I'm on the
It's
committee.
usually on a Saturday.
Yeah, it's usually on a Saturday. Right, because then we all breathe easy on Sundays, you know. But yeah, here's our website. So people can go there and see everything that's going on. Yeah, and we're always looking for volunteers. So up near resources and about, you know, there's a link to say, hey, I'm interested in volunteering. And we're happy to have people come on board.
And it's kind of interesting so I was interested in Preservation Burlington. I was invited to join a committee, and from the committee, I became a board member. As a board member, I became president of the board, and then I took over the TV show. And you know how it's always interesting how that works out, but it's still really great.
That's how we get our hooks in you. And you bring them in. Next thing you know, you'll be on the TV show. You'll be president.
You never know what you're going to do.
Yeah, we always tell everybody, if you miss 2 meetings, we make you president.
Damn, that's what I did wrong. That was the blueprint.
Yep.
All righty, well, this is Patricia, and I'm traveling for history. I really want to thank Ron Wanamaker of Preservation Burlington coming on the show today. And until I see you again, I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day. Thanks for watching. Bye now.